You having any problems with your home?
Zoom recording. Okay, welcome everybody to How to Be a Media Magnet. We're joined by all of these lovely people today, and some doofus forgot to press record. So we haven't really said much yet, which is good. Well, I've said a lot, but you guys are just sitting there patiently following along the bouncing balls. So what we're talking about is the lessons that I've learnt, which is really helpful when you're doing your own PR. So you guys got like this private, like little tidbits because you showed up. So the media want to hear from you, and whether you believe it or not, you've actually got a lot of stories in your business that you can pull out and start using now. But like everything, PR's changing. Like PR's changing even now. The way that we deliver information and the way the media wants the information is changing now. And as I said, there's absolutely no room for modesty in business. Every single person on this screen, and you might recognise some of them from around the traps, I don't know who that is, but she looks very fit and healthy, are just ordinary, everyday human beings like you and I who had a story, pitched it to the media and got some type of coverage. You know, like this one here with the gorgeous woman is all about an app that you only had to do 5 minutes of work a day. That was on a 2-page spread in the Daily Telegraph. This is Carly, who she lives out Whoop Whoop, and she helps workers find help. You know, FIFO workers who've been away and they come back and they need their lawn mowed or something like that. She connects people. You know, many of you might know Hayley, who is just an incredible serial entrepreneur. His brain just goes 700 miles an hour, that it's just crazy. This one's with Sharmore and Julie Mason as featured speakers to a local business expo. You know, this is a guy who's a property investor who had something to say about when they were looking at getting rid of negative gearing at the last federal election. So there are always stories out there that need to be told in the media that are looking for them. And this is where your workbook comes into it. So the first thing that you've really got to get clear on, if you haven't, so if you started your business and you just went, I'm just going to tuck into it, I'm just going to go and I'm not going to plan anything. You know, this is not something that you've consciously said, but you've just gone, I'm just going to get started, which is great. Let's just get started. But at some point you've got to stop and you've got to work out who it is you're telling your story to, because you can't tell your story if you have no idea who your audience is. And saying everyone is my audience is not going to work, because it's going to dilute your message, because you're going to be working so hard to get traction in all of these groups and all of these different platforms, trying to find the person who needs to hear what you have to say. So now's a really good time to sit down or stand up if you want to, because that's probably good for incidental exercise, and work out who is your audience. Get really specific about them. There's heaps of resources online. If you Google, how do I find my ideal audience? Lauren's a great person to speak to about that. That's her genius zone. But also, what are your key messages? What is it that people really, really need to know about you? What is it that will get them excited about working with you? What is it that you need to repeat over and over and over again so people get what it is that you do? You know, I had a conversation with Hayley yesterday, and she said, we're doing all of these Facebook Lives, but we're kind of feeling a little awkward about it because we feel like people are probably sick of us, or that, you know, like we're even starting to feel like, you know, a bit of imposter syndrome, because like, who are we really to talk about this? And my response was, well, the chances are is your entire target audience is not going to see and hear what you say every time you say it, because they're not always going to be on Facebook watching your live. They're not always going to be reading the newspaper, or they're not always going to be reading that magazine. They're not always going to be on your page. So it's really important that you repeat that message over and over and over and over and over and over until you're sick of it and you've gone, oh my God, I sound like I'm talking to my children. They're not listening. That your target audience needs to see you continually show up. And if you're saying the same thing over and over and over again, then it's going to get through to their head, because we're bombarded with so much information. I mean, like, just look at what's coming at us about this virus. There's so much, but we're not getting it all at once. So they have to repeat it so that they know that we can't go to gatherings of 100 people or more. Because, I even had one of my friends the other day, he said, why is there no toilet paper? And I'm like going, like, have you not seen the news? He said, no, I don't watch anything. I'm hardly ever on social media. So, I was able to enlighten him. You also need to get really clear on your purpose, because working through this crisis is that it's going to be really easy to get disillusioned, to get overwhelmed. And, I said to my husband before, I think after this webinar, I think I might have the afternoon off, because when you're reading the news all the time, because that's what your clients need you to do, is that it can get a little bit too much. So my purpose is educating people and helping them be seen. So if that's not clear for me, then the chances are I'd probably go, I'm just going to go to bed for the next month, and that's the end. I'm not doing any more. But my purpose drives me. Yours has to drive you. So get really clear on that. And work out what you want to be known for. Is it to be a speaker? Is it to be the most amazing radio host on the planet? Is to be the most incredible stylist? What is it that you want to be known for, so that you can communicate that message? Hey, Shalini.
How are you going?
Good, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, I won't be here long. I wanted to pop in and be connected. I'm tired of working alone.
Oh, well, you can sit and listen to my dulcet tones for a little while. And luckily, the lovely Irene reminded me to press record. So you've missed the first 15 minutes, as has everybody else. But, we'll catch up later.
I'll pop back out, then I'll duck back in after my call, which shouldn't take too long.
So we're just talking about knowing your ideal audience, because the reason why this is so important from a PR perspective is that if you're going to spend some time, dedicating some time to promoting yourself over the next few weeks, the next few months, then if you know what type of content your target audience likes, what type of platforms they're on, you can hone down, streamline your time so that you can target your message succinctly and strategically, rather than going, oh, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to do that, because that's tiring and it doesn't work. And that's why people go, oh, this is so hard. So, this is the beautiful Kate. She makes the most amazing picnic blankets. And I hope that her business is booming, because probably one of the most social things that we can do is go sit outside with our families and enjoy the sun and get some vitamin D sitting on her gorgeous picnic seasons blankets. So knowing who her target audience was, which is mothers or parents of young children who like being outdoors, like being active and enjoy spending time together, is that she was able to target her content to those specific magazines. And we did something really fun. We did a survey of her target audience to find out how much time people actually spend together doing something fun as a family. And you know what we found out? We surveyed 400 people. Survey said 30 minutes of fun. That's how much time we spend on average with our family each week doing something fun. It's time to change that. So get really clear on your audience so that you can work out the right media for you to target. So the next one is your plot. So your plot is basically, what's your story? What is it that you're going to share? So in the context of what we're going through right now is you can be looking at, my brain just went blank. You can be looking at health aspects. So you might be a nutritionist, you might be a psychologist, you might be a counsellor, you might be, I know not health, but Shalini is a lawyer, and she's been putting out so much amazing content about how do you manage cancellations and refunds. But, you know, if you're in that health space, what are the type of things that you can talk about that people will need to know at this time? How can they make, you know, their own hand sanitizer? How can they do things that are going to lift their mood and keep them vibrating at a higher level? How are we going to help people stop from slipping into depression because we're facing job losses and all of those type of things? What type of foods can we eat that are going to lift our mood and keep our immune systems high? What type of recipes can we create out of the stuff that we may already have in our pantry if we didn't get to the supermarket in time to buy mince and frozen chips and baked beans? Because I tell you, they're gone. We're in trouble if there's no more toilet paper soon. You know, if you're in business, you've got a marketing business, or if you've just got a service-based business, you can be writing content around any of, you know, the specialties of what you do. So if you think about the problems that you solve, how can you apply those problems to what we're going through right now? So I wrote an article the other day about crisis management. So I was talking to a client who works in the care space, and I said to her, what happens if one of your people who goes to work sick because they're casual and they don't want to lose their income, and they infect someone that they're meant to be caring for and that person dies? And she went, oh, we hadn't thought about that. So I can pump out content to get people thinking about how they can, you know, if you're on the webinar yesterday, I talked about crisis management, about what you can do to start preparing for if the worst happens. You know, helpful tips. You know, we can't go to the hairdresser. How are we going to keep our hair looking good over the next few weeks? You know, how are we going to interact? What type of, do you have tips on how to use videos? Are you a course creator? Have you got tips on how you can pivot your current offerings and offer it as a low-cost online course that people can access to keep them busy during this time? So I saw someone else the other day posted links to a whole heap of activities that you can do from your computer to keep everybody engaged. It just means putting your thinking cap on, looking at, here's the problem, which is the virus, we're in lockdown, you know, things are changing, and what it is that you do. How can you bring those together so that you can go to the media and say, hey, I've just got this really great idea about an article on how to create 6 nutritional meals using things that you wouldn't expect out of your pantry. Chances are that they're going to go, that's awesome, because they want stuff about the virus right now on all different topics. And by knowing who your target audience is, so you know the right media, is that you can go pitch directly to them and say, hey, I know that this is your audience. I know that this is their problem right now and that this is how they're hurting, and I have a solution which your audience is going to love. They're going to love you for that. You might want to have a rant. I had a bit of a rant yesterday on Facebook about people hoarding. Had nothing to do with my business. I just really felt that I need to do that. Or customer stories. You know, we also want to be uplifted. We want some positivity in our life. You know, even if the media aren't interested in those stories, they're really great to share from your website, from your Facebook page, into Facebook groups, to give people some hope and some inspiration. So you may be wondering, what makes a good story? So these are the elements that make great stories. I'm just going to check chat. I can see there's some chat messages in there. okay, just people ducking in and out. So these are called the elements, 7 elements of good news story. So they're news values. So back in the journalism days, this is how a journalist would look at a story that would come across their desk as a media release or as a pitch, and they would weigh them up against, does it tick off against these boxes? So as you're sitting there and going, you know what, I'm going to write something for Yahoo 7 Lifestyle about, how to lift your vibration during a crisis. They're going to want to know the basic information. So the who, what, when, where, how, and the why. So who's the story is about, what the story is about, when, which is right now, where, is it online? Chances are really needs to be online at the moment. How is it? How do they access it? How do they do it? How do they get a hold of it? Do they need a link? And the why. Why is the story pertinent? So when you pitch to a journalist, they want to know why this story is of value to you. And I don't think I've included it in this, but I'll send it via Zoom afterwards, because it won't actually let me download your email addresses, but I'll send it via Zoom. I've got a really cool media hack to pitch a story. So, because a lot of the time I'll find that, I'll come up with a story idea and I really don't want to spend that time writing the media release because I don't know whether the journalist is going to take the story. So there's time that I've spent and they've gone, nah, not interested. So I came up with this cool little hack which incorporates these elements of news values. So all I'm writing is an email and giving them opportunity to say yes or no. I do need to tell you, though, as well, because the media are a fickle beast. Back in my day, if someone rang you and left a message, you'd actually call them back. Oh, no, surprise, it's crazy. Or they contacted you, you'd contact them back to say yes or no. Now we're a lot more flippant with our communications. I'm really hoping that as we come through this, that we change that a little bit. We value those relationships and those connections a bit more. I will fully say that I am also guilty of this. So this is me, the pot calling the kettle black, is that we respond more quickly to each other and even the media. So if you don't hear back from them, don't think that it's a no. Follow them up. That's really important. Don't just go, oh, well, that's it. I followed up a story once 20 times over a 6-month period. And on the 21st time I followed them up, they've gone, oh, this is a great story, we're going to run it. Like, hello, that's 6 months later, but they still ran it. The next one is significance. So in terms of audience interest, we're talking about a crisis that right now, all the things to do with the virus is what will be significant. That's what will get you a better chance of getting media attention. Prominence, that either means that you've got someone well known who's attached to the story, or it is a prominent topic. So if you can tie that with significance and prominence, which we can right now, given the state of the media cycle, is that you can tick a lot of boxes. Timing, is it relevant? Yep, absolutely. Conflict, you might have a differing opinion to someone out there at the moment. You might be in a position where you can say, that advice being given is incorrect, or I think that we could do this a different way. Another good way to tap into these news values is called newsjacking. So if you are searching the media on a daily basis for your topic, and you can do that by setting up Google Alerts and putting your keywords in, come into your inbox, you just skim it and you go, oh, I could comment on that story, find the journalist, send off your email. That's a really cool one for going, Prime Minister Morrison said this, but, I think that this is not going to work. Oddity, is there something different about what you do, about what you teach, what you say, what you deliver that will stand you out from everyone else? And of course, at the end of the day, one of the most valuable news values is emotion. Can you Can you make someone cry? Can you make someone angry? Can you make someone happy? Can you make someone act? Can you inspire someone? So when you're looking at what your topic is it going to do? If you can tick 2 or 3 these off in regards to your story, then people are going to want to read it. So because we're talking about not just now, but recovery and getting through the next few months, some really good stories for you to start creating and pulling together is your story. You know, you're all here because you're action takers. You know, you put aside time within your day to go, I want some more information about how I can continue to grow and how I can continue to be relevant. So the chances are you're going to be able to encourage and bring people along with you in your tailwind. So think about what your story is. Have you told it? There's lots of opportunities on social media when you join a group to tell your story. It's a great way to position yourself as an expert at what you do, but also to give a little bit of vulnerability about, you know, how you got to be where you are. You know, don't just say, you know, hey, I'm a journalist, I like writing, and, you know, I love working with people. Like, that doesn't really tell people anything about you. Go a little bit deeper, as much as you're comfortable to do. That will give people an understanding of why, what your purpose is, you know, why you do what you do, so that when it comes time for them to go, you know, hey, I need a copywriter, or I need a business analyst, or I need whatever it is that you do out there, that already connected a little emotionally with you. Remember, this PR is all about subtlety. It's all about creating that relationship, and we do that by sharing. What are some of the lessons that you've learned through your business, through the growth of your business, through, you know, the challenges that you've had to face, through the mistakes that you've made? And like, hands up, who's made a mistake? You're like, all of that, both my hands up. And I'm pretty sure that if I could do it physically, I'd put both my feet up. You know, I've made many mistakes, and people can learn from those. And, you know, I showed you a story from Hayley just before. Like, she started 4 businesses, and 2 of them like just went for a range of different reasons. And she's really open about sharing why they failed, what it is that she learnt out of those. And it's helped her build her current business, which, as a business concierge, is she's able to look at people's businesses and think, come out of the box solutions for how they can grow and present themselves online. What are your tips for success? So you've had a bit of success, you've made a little bit of money, or you've got some great clients. What have you learnt on what that means within your space? You know, like, was it, you know, the being better with your time? You know, I know these are all very evergreen topics, but if you go and have a look at most publications and you go back far enough, you see that they keep talking about the same topics over and over again, and that you can give your slant on those. You know, you've got a different way of looking at things. You've got a different way of doing things, that you can position that story and own it from your perspective. Like, no one has the experience that you have except for you. And human interest stories are really cool. So not only about the story of how you began, but it may also be a story of, you know, something that you've done. You may have won an award, or, you know, maybe you've lost a stack of clients, but you've now found a way for you to move forward by creating an online course, or, you know, doing a series of videos, like whatever that is. Weave that emotion into that human interest story. The one that I've got on the screen is Adrienne Fleming. Adrienne was one of the few women to enter the aviation industry back in the 80s, and she's got this amazing commercial flying school down in Victoria. And this was a story of how she got into her industry, and it's a really compelling, interesting story, because she was one of the few women to be a pilot. Like, can you imagine that back in the days where it was like, you know, women were not deemed to be worthy to work in those male-dominated spaces? but she persisted, and she's got some really valuable insights on how she overcame that, but what she did to fortify and strengthen herself so she could show up day after day. A really good way to start your connection with the media is by creating a media kit. It's something that I would advise that you do as you find the media that you want to speak to as a way of introducing yourself. It's like a one-stop shop of this is who I am. So, who uses Canva? You don't have to answer that, but, if you haven't, I'll put it in there. It's Canva, C-A-N-V-A. And Canva is this amazing online graphic designs program that you can go in. There's heaps of templates that you can use, and you can just create something amazing like this that I've got on the screen that you can send off. Like if you type in media kit in the search function looking for a template, they'll come up with a whole lot of designs. You don't even have to think about what it looks like. You just have to put the information in. So this one that I've got on the screen is a 2-page one. And, there's the business name. Here's a little bit about the founder and a picture so they know that she doesn't have 2 heads, not that there's anything wrong with having 2 heads. A little bit about the company, what's so special about it, how it works, the topics that she's an expert on, some of her stats. You can include that or not include that. Like if you're just starting out, don't include them because they might look and go, really? But, maybe you've written for a few, online publications, or you've been featured on someone else's page, you've written a blog for them, or you've been on a few podcasts. Feel free to put them in as seen in. If you haven't, you can leave that out, and maybe you can put some photos of what it is that you are in action. And then you just send that to a journalist and saying, hey, journalist, I just wanted to introduce myself to you. I do this, and if you're ever looking for someone to speak about topics, I'm here to help and be of service. Regards. And send it off. They may see it, they may not see it. Follow up a couple of weeks later and just say, hey, I sent you through my media kit a couple of weeks ago. I noticed there's lots of, so this is where you really need to be building your relationship with the journalist and have some insight into the type of things that they cover. Hey, I really love that story that you did about this topic. Here's my perspective on that. Just keep front of mind. That's how you keep front of mind. And that's where you've got to put aside that ickiness of going, oh, they're going to think I'm annoying, or they're going to think, whatever it is that they think of me, all these things that we make up in our head, and go, okay, that doesn't matter because that's not going to get me that media interview. The thing that's going to get me that media interview or that opportunity to write or that opportunity to be on that podcast is being bold and audacious and putting myself out there. Okay, possibilities is next. How do you find these media contacts that I'm talking about? Does anybody want to know that? Yeah, but the really cool thing is that most journalists want to be found, and if you're prepared to go and do a little bit of research, you can find them. They're out there. So the first thing that you've got to do to make sure, so we know who our target audience is, and this is where we work out what the right media is that we want. So do a little bit of research, so your target audience likes reading Mamma Mia. Go and pour over Mamma Mia for the next couple of days. Look at what type of stories they write, what are their topics, what type of style do they write in. Mamma Mia has a lot of first-person content where someone has written in and says, this is what I learned about myself in the 2 weeks of self-isolating. You can make it funny, you can make it serious, but finding out the right people to send to comes with taking the time to get to know that publication. Remember, public relations, that relationships word is really important. And then start creating a list. So every time you go and find someone that you go, this is someone that I can connect with, just start a spreadsheet or a table in Word, or put them in your CRM, whatever it is that you use to manage your contacts. so that you can keep track of your interactions with them. And then reach out with your media kit. So send your media kit off and introduce yourself and then follow up. So I think so far I've given you a few jobs to do, haven't I? So one is work out who your target audience is. Start brainstorming a list of stories. I've given you a few ideas of how you can do that. Create your media kit, go into Canva, canva.com, and create your template. And then start researching the right media contacts for you. So I'm going to give you some hints on where you can go and find these contacts. So first, Google. You know, sometimes they just pop up. You might go Annette Densham, news.com.au. I don't work for them, but, you know, I used to work for them. And see if they come up. Now, the cool thing with News Limited, like news.com.au, Courier Mail, the Australian, the Daily Telegraph, the Herald, the Advertiser in Adelaide, most major state publications, is that they all have the same format for name. First name dot last name at news.com.au. So you may go on there and see, you know, Joe Blogs has written this story, and you go, oh, perfect, joe.blogs@news.com.au, and chances are your email will get through. And you'll find that with most large media organisations is that once you've worked out one person's, you can work out the other. I did this last year for International Child Free Day. I was working with Tanya Williams, and she said, I really want to be on the project. And I went, oh, everybody says that. Okay, I'll give it a good go. They only get 5,000 emails a day, but I'll give it a crack. And I went, oh, how am I going to get to Carrie Bickmore? Because I can't find her email address anywhere. So I went, I know that she's on the radio in the afternoon, so I'm going to go to the radio site and I'm going to find someone's email that works there that I've emailed before, and I'm going to give it a go with that format and email her. It got through to her. I was like, oh, that's amazing. So Tanya was on not only Carrie Bickmore's show, but she was also on the project. So it was like I killed two birds with one stone that day. So you've got to be sneaky, you've got to be a little creative, and you've got to be prepared to just put it out there and see if it works. A lot of journalists use Twitter, so you can start engaging with them now on Twitter. So go and find the journalists you want to follow them on Twitter and respond to them, like their stuff, retweet their stuff. And then you might have a story, so you can tweet them and say, you know, hey, Joe Blogs, blah, 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 here's my story. You know, when you're watching the news and, you know, the journalists are sitting there like going, you know, they're tweeting about what's going on. They're not emailing their boyfriend or girlfriend and saying, can you please pick up milk? They're actually tweeting about the story. LinkedIn's also another really cool place to go and search. If you know their name, you can go search for them and you can introduce yourself that way. Facebook groups. A lot of them, well, not a lot of them, I'm exaggerating there. Oh, I'm not a journalist at all. Many of them are in Facebook groups because they now realise what a great place to go searching for talent Facebook groups are. So, you know, in the Facebook group, so I'm thinking about on a desktop, is you go into a group and off to the left-hand side is a search function. If you're on a phone, it's right at the top, you know, with a little magnifying glass. If you go over there and you type journalist and have a search through and see what journalists are in there, look at what type of stories they're looking for and go, you know what, that's someone that I can add to my list. I'm going to introduce myself to them. And you can also purchase a database. So this one just here that I've got is one that I pay for. Now, it's $1,000 a year, but it's really handy because I can start with a client and they go, I work in swimwear. And I go, oh, okay, I've mainly worked with business media, but I can go into that database and put in fashion and come up with a massive field of people who write about fashion. And then I can go onto their website, online publication, and go, okay, yep, absolutely. Jane Fraser writes about swimwear all the time. She's someone I want to add to my list. So there you go. There's another job. So to reinforce. How do you reach out? Send your media kit with an introduction. Send them an email or private message, and then follow up. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Don't just go, that's it, I'm done. Follow up. So the same process when you're pitching a story. So you can use email, you can Facebook them. I've done that before. Most media outlets now are on Facebook. They have a Facebook page. You can go and private message them. Sometimes that doesn't work, and I'd say particularly now they're being inundated with people contacting them that way. So I wouldn't be expecting an answer too quickly. Email is probably the most direct. The next direct would be phone call. But a lot of journalists these days don't like being called, not just because they're antisocial, but because so many newsrooms have been decimated by financial restructuring. You may have seen the news a couple of weeks ago. AAP, Australian Associated Press, is no longer going to exist after June. They've been around 85 years, employ hundreds of journalists who are now out of a job. News Limited is constantly restructuring its editorial department. That's the Australian and the Telegraph, the Courier Mail. So there's less journalists doing more, which is why we keep seeing stories popping up which are, regurgitation of people's tweets, regurgitation of, Facebook stories of something, a cat eating custard with its tail that goes viral because it's easy to do, it's easy to fill the space, and it's easy to continue to pump out stories. So they don't like taking phone calls because they're under so much pressure to pump content out. So if you can get them via email and follow up, do it that way. And of course, LinkedIn, I think, is a really good way to do that. So with your pitch, the same as with finding your media outlets, is you need to understand who your audience is, because if you understand your audience, they're more than likely going to take your story. You want to solve a problem for them. So right now we're in the middle of chaos and crisis. How can you solve a problem for them and give them content that their readers need and want? When you're pitching a story, be succinct. Do not waffle on for 500 words in your pitch. Like I said to you before, you want to do the who, what, when, where, how, and why. Give them a reason why your story is suitable for their audience and how they can contact you, how you can provide images, you could provide video, you could provide whatever that is. Stick to the facts. Don't go, I think, I guess. Don't exaggerate, just stick to the facts. And don't forget to put your contact details. Most of us these days do have email signatures, but I know that I have received communication from people where it's like, I really need to ring them and there's no phone number. And it's like a journalist is really not going to take, 10, 15 minutes like I would to go and hunt that down to ring you. If you don't do these things, then they're just going to go next because I don't have the time to be running around after you. So I'm going to give you a few pitch hacks, or maybe I did put it in here. I threw it together so quickly that it's like, oh, I don't know. So what you want is an angle that piques their curiosity. So by that I mean, what is the story that is going to get them excited that they want to answer the email? And it starts with a really cool, attention-grabbing subject line. Just summarise your story in as fewer words as possible, but make it as magnetic and attractive as possible. So, like it might be, I'm trying to think of something really boring. 5 tips to boost your immune system. Like, that's okay, but you could put, 5 ways to make sure corona doesn't get you strapped in your bed. I know that's pretty weak, but anyway, hopefully you get the idea. Be a little bit more creative with it, and then that short, sharp, crisp email that immediately gives them value so that they know what it is that they're getting. I mentioned before about newsjacking. So this is where you piggyback on a current story and tie it to your product, your service, or the thing that it is that you're doing. The example that I've got here was a couple of years ago, there was a celebrity who was on the project, and her and her husband had miscarried quite late in pregnancy. And she'd said something about she could tell that people were really uncomfortable about now communicating with her, that people were avoiding her. And this particular lady in this article, Helen Abbott, had written a book about beyond pregnancy loss based on her personal experience of losing a child. So we tapped into that, and we pulled together a really quick media release, which is why it's important to talk about miscarriages. Pregnancy loss is real loss. And we pitched that out, and we had, I think we got 6 or 7 media wins out of that one media release. Interviews on ABC Radio, articles in parenting publications, and an article in her newspaper, which was in South Australia. So if you can tie something that's current, and I said before, you can track these by setting up Google Alerts. Just Google Alerts, and it'll show you how you can set that up for yourself. And the next way is to use traffic on something that's currently performing well. So it may be your story, it may be someone else's story. So this particular one that I'm using is Clay, who lives in Brisbane, and he's got a bin cleaning business, and his mum approached me and said, I'd like to get a little bit of PR for him. And it just went absolute crazy. Like, it went ballistic. I think within a month we had over 3 million views of this story. It was a perfect combination of, like great human interest story, awesome, story about a young kid who'd just been totally ignored by mainstream employers, a really passionate mum who came up with a great solution, and it was around Christmas time, so it was pretty slow in terms of news. Not discrediting his story, but the media loved it. And we got him a couple of interviews on TV news, so Channel 9 and Channel 7 came out. And then it just got picked up all over the place. So we're able to leverage that by taking the original story and sending it to other media outlets and saying, hey, look at this story. This is getting a lot of attention. You might want to jump on board with this. So that's another cool way to do that. So how do you be good talent? So when a journalist rings you or emails you, chances are they'll email, they won't ring you. I know when a journalist rings me, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm not quite sure what to do. Someone's ringing me. That's like just so unusual. I've got a contact at a local community newspaper who I'll send an email to, and she'll ring me. And I'm like going, I don't think I can cope with this, Julie. You've called me. It's like so far out of normal now. So if you've pitched a story, keep your phone close by or check your emails regularly. I know some people only check their emails in the morning and in the afternoon, but if you've pitched a story, they might get back to you really quickly. So make sure that you pay attention to your email or your phone. Respond quickly. Get back to them as quickly as possible, straight away if you can. Have your media kit so you can send that, because they might want a little bit more information. They might be looking for a photo of you. They might be looking at a photo of the thing that you do. And if you can't help, say so. So don't go, and string them along. Say, no, look, actually, I can't help you with this, but you know what? I know someone who can. I know Katrina would be absolutely perfect for you to be able to talk to about this topic. It's okay to ask them for the questions that they want to ask you, so you can work your answers out beforehand. Most journalists are happy to do that, or they might be a bit vague and they'll go, I actually want to talk to you about how you get your taxes in order during such a chaotic time. What does doing your tax, like we're coming up to the end of financial year, next we're about to head into next quarter. So how do we start preparing with all of the changes that have happened? And don't forget to thank them. They are human too. And I know if I've had a journalist who's gone above and beyond with a story, is that I quite often will send them a little thank you gift. It might be a movie voucher or a box of chocolates or something like that, just to say thank you very much. I really appreciate, because what they're doing for you, say your story runs in the local paper, you've got a quarter page. They might normally charge $3,000 for that space, and they've given it to you because you've got a good story. That's $3,000 you didn't have to spend on promoting your business. So once you've published your story, this is where you leverage it, because, you know, if I go back to what I said right at the beginning, is that not everybody is going to read the paper that week. You know, they might run over it a few times as they go in and out of their driveway, that like we do with our local paper. Or they don't buy the magazine, they only read it online, or they miss the news that day, or they didn't see it in the Facebook feed. So this is your opportunity to continue to leverage off that story for months, even years. You know, there's a story that I think I shared for a client a couple of weeks ago that I wrote 2 years ago that's still relevant now. And a topic came up in a conversation in a Facebook group, and I put the link in there and watched that tick over with more and more readers and more shares. So use social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You might be using TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, whatever it is that you use, is share the win on those. You know, write a little bit of a story about, you know, hey, I was really nervous when the journalist rang me, or, you know, it was really exciting to be able to share my insights into. And because the thing is that your target audience is watching you. I don't know if any of you, like, you're on in these Facebook groups and you are always watching. You may not be necessarily always putting your point of view across or posting, but you are watching. And most people do that. Most people are watching, and you just never know when people will be ready for what it is that you do. Another way to leverage it is to get the logo of the media outlet that you've appeared in, you know, Sunrise, Courier Mail, ABC, whatever that is, and then link your story to that, or have a screenshot of it there. Because the thing is, you do want to keep people on your website, so you don't want to be sending them away all the time. But so maybe on your page is that you've got your home page, you've got your logo there, you hyperlink it to another page where you've got all your media wins, and then you can send them off to read the story or listen to the story. Put the logos in your email signature, blog about your experience. You know, because there's lots of people out there who may not listen to me because they go, oh, she probably wants to get something out of me. But they might want to listen to you because as the non-PR professional, you've got a different insight in how you went about this and what was hard for you, what were the challenges, what were the things that you learn about engaging with the media, and how did you use it afterwards. So, you know, you have the opportunity there to also continue to educate people. You could do a case study about the process. You can relate it to something that you've experienced, so you can tie that all together with your blog and your case study. Email your list with the link. Here's me on Sunrise talking about whatever it is that you were talking about. And also include it in your newsletter, and include it on your social media pages as well. So, deep breath, that's an hour. That's a lot of talking I've done, isn't it? Lots of words. Does anybody have any questions right now before I'm just going to go into, you know, some of the tools that you can use now, not just media, but other ways you can get your stories out there. But I'm happy to take a few questions so I can have a drink of water. If not, I'll keep charging on. I'm going to keep charging on. Okay. So,
Annette, sorry,
yes.
can I jump in there?
Sure, Katrina.
You mentioned connectweb.com.au. That was the one where you get all the contact details for different people. Was that just journalists, or was that anyone and anything?
No, that's the Connect Web is just, well, they do have a who's who and a government listing. I only pay for the media contact list. So it's currently managed by AAP, Australian Associated Press. So what they do is they've got a team of people who are constantly updating that in communication with like all the media which are in Australia, and making sure that, you know, they've got, you know, the right people, the right email addresses and the right phone numbers. But there are other media databases out there that you can tap into. That one I found works for me. There's a really cool tool, which I'll mention a bit later, but I'll tell you now because we're talking about media contacts. Jules Brooke, who has an amazing business called Handle Your Own PR. So she has got some masterclasses and some online programs that you can tap into to learn how to do your own PR. She has an online portal called Handle Your Own PR, and last time, I think it's about $500 a year, but it takes you through the process of you have to write your own media release, but putting your media release in, selecting your media contacts, and then being able to email them directly from that portal, and then coming back and being able to follow up. So instead of having to do email after email in your email provider, is you can do it all from the one platform. So that's a really cool tool. I use it as a way, if I've got a story that I need to pump out, then I will use that. I'll just put it in there.
The Handle Your Own PR you're talking about?
I'm just going to put it in here. One moment, caller. Just getting the website address. It is a subscription. You do have to pay for it. It's not free, but it is a really good tool.
Funnily enough, I typed in Jules Brooks. She did not come up.
Oh, she needs to do a bit more PR. You hear that, Jules? She's really good. If you go follow her on LinkedIn, she also has...
I didn't misspell her name, and she didn't come up straight away. I had to type in Handle Your Own PR.
Well, there you go. Oh, I've put the link in the chat for everybody.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so how do we get results? Look, I follow the PCR formula. You got to be persistent, you got to be consistent, and you got to be resistant. So persistent means you just keep going even when you think that it's not working. Right now is an opportunity. A lot of people are pulling back. It's your opportunity to put yourself out there and to start creating content, getting it to the media, sharing it on websites, collaborating with other people through their websites. I'm going to talk about third-party publications in a second. That's a way that you can also use. I'll explain what I mean. You've got to be consistent. You can't just do it once. You've got to do it more than once. You've got to do it over and over and over again, because repetition is what you need here. If you want to be front and center in people's minds, then you've got to be like, you know, Katrina just went looking for Jules. She couldn't find her. Jules is an amazing, incredibly talented PR person, and she needs to be found because she's got something that people need. And if you didn't know about Handle Your Own PR, then you would never have known to go and look for it. And you've got to be resistant to your own voice, and that's the voice that often gets us, that one in between our ears that goes, this sucks, you're hopeless, you can't do this, you've got nothing to share. You need to tell it to shut up and just keep moving forward. Because what you're getting here is third-party credibility. So if you appear in the media, so this is Kathy. This was an amazing story. We actually scored this story from Source Bottle, and the journalists had put a call out for people who prep food on a Sunday ready for the week. Now, Kathy doesn't do that. As you can see behind her, Kathy hasn't been raiding the supermarkets in the last week. This is Kathy's normal. Her pantry cupboard is ready for a zombie apocalypse or a pandemic. And we could all show up to her house right now and she'd be able to whip us up the most amazing, nutritious meal. So I pitched that story. So Kathy appeared, it was a 2-page spread in the Herald Sun. Kathy's photo took up a third of that page. You know, that for her credibility as a nutritionist, a medical nutritionist, went so far because it wasn't Kathy going, I'm good. It wasn't her PR person going, she's good. It was a Herald Sun saying, hey, we found this woman and what she's doing is pretty incredible. And that's what you have at your fingertips if you're persistent, consistent and resistant. So a big part of PR now is there's, it's like all things, it's evolving. There's an evolution of how you can use your story to put it out there. Mainstream media is certainly the one that most people go to, you know, and the number of people that come to me and go, I want to be in the paper, or I want to be on Sunrise, or I want to be on The Project, or I want to be on 3AW is cool. But it's not the only way to use PR to build your profile and to be front and centre. So when you're looking at implementing some of the things that I've told you, look at how you can integrate lots of different ways. And Charlene's gone, I've got her photo there. So if you think about PR as everything you say and everything you do and everything that people say about you, then there are so many different ways that you can use the things that I've shared with you, the stories that you're going to come up with to write articles for third-party sites. Now, third-party sites are those ones like Thrive Global, Mind Body Green, Founder, Inc., Forbes. If you go Google third-party publications or contribution publications, business publications to contribute to, is that there's a lot of people out there who've made lists. Lauren and I are actually in the process of creating one of these lists. I think we're up to like 3,000 publications that you can write content for. So you can sit down, write an article on the topic of your specialty, and you can go, and a lot of them will give you access to the back end where you can go and upload your article, someone will review it, and then it'll run. You know, we're looking for sites that have got high domain authority. So these are the ones that Google looks at and goes, you know, these people are really credible. We really like the stuff that they're putting out, because that lifts your credibility as well. So if you appear in one of those sites, people are like, wow, that's pretty cool. You must like know something or be doing something amazing, because people are impressed by that, because most people aren't doing it. And if you can do that, then go for it. So third-party sites, I've pivoted a lot in the last couple of months with doing more of that style of content than just doing mainstream media. Because the thing with third-party sites is that you've got a better guarantee of getting your article published than you do if you just pitch it to an online publication that you've got to go through the editor or the chief of staff or through the journalist. But you've got to make sure you apply those news values that I touched on. So you can't just write about stuff that no one's going to be interested in. It's got to be content and topics aligned to those third-party sites. So you've got to write to their guidelines. You've got to write to their audience. You may need to change your style. You might write very informally. Their site might be more formal. So you do need to do a little bit of research around that. PR is also about awards. Now, you know, I know a lot of people are going, oh, you know, like, why enter them right now? They're still going to run. We just won't be able to go to the awards celebrations for the next few months. But you can still use awards to build your credibility and put you front of mind. People like winners. People are putting themselves out there and having a go. Social media, Facebook groups are such an incredible place to be building your credibility and building your profile and putting yourself out there. Go in there and freely share tips on what it is that you do. take part and communicate in conversations, and, you know, offer your services as much as you can. Make sure you follow the rules. There's a lot of sites that, you know, there's no self-promotion and there's no advertising yourself, but there's a way that you can really subtly do it. And if you, like, I think that I'm really good at that, is, you know, putting myself out there, sharing, giving away freely. I really truly believe in the law of reciprocity, giving as much as I can for free, and at the same time, I'm actually promoting myself without promoting myself. So it can be done. Video. Now is a really great time to get out there and pop your video out there and share who you are. We're looking for interaction and connection. You know, we want to see people. We want to reach out. Can't touch them at the moment, but video is a really good way to do that. You know, look at, you know, you've written, say you've got a stack of articles that you've already written, break them down into bite-sized chunks and hop on and do a series of, you know, 5 or 6 videos about that topic, and breaking each point down into a 3 to 4 minute video and putting that out over social media, put it on your website, upload it to YouTube, because when people go searching for you and you tap into your keywords and SEO, you will come up. Facebook Lives, which is the same as video, except it's on social media. So there's just so many ways that you can use PR to publicise yourself outside of mainstream media. So if you pitch a story to a newspaper or a radio program or whatever it is and they say no, you have all of these different resources that you can tap into, that you can still get leverage out of the story that you've created. This is a tip someone gave me this morning, and I think this is a really good one, and I thought I'd share that with you, because the thing that I find that a lot of people struggle with is, once they've done that list of 5 story ideas that I've given them, they're like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what to write about. I'm stuck. Because when we're really good at something, we have that unconscious competence, and sometimes it's hard to get out of our own head and be able to look at it objectively and go, okay, I know that this is what people really want, because what you do is often effortless and you don't think that it's hard. Whereas people from the outside are going like, my God, how does she do that? Like, I sat through that webinar with Lauren yesterday, and while she was talking, I wrote a 600-word article. And it was like, people are like, oh my God, that would have taken me 2 days to do. I find that really easy. So those type of things are the things that you can be writing about, you know, sharing that information to make life a bit easier for other people. So this is a traffic driving tip for you. So if you've heard of Quora, so I've given you the website there, Quora.com. It's a great place that people go and share knowledge, that ask questions about all types of things. You can go in there, find a popular topic. So this is, the popular topic is what people want to know about. So at the moment in Quora, they've actually got a coronavirus section. Go in there, find the topic that you can speak to, create a video, upload it to your website or YouTube, and then post a link into the thread and say, hey, that's really interesting what you're saying there. I've created a video on it just here, and that will drive traffic, because Quora also is a really good way to build your profile. Who's going to give that a go? I'm going to give that a go. Someone just shared that with me today and I went, that's gold. So here are some handy tips for you to find stories. So these are more, the first 2 are more like reactive type media. So how you can, you're welcome, see ya, are more reactive. So this is the journalist putting out there and going, saying, I'm looking for someone, and you're responding. So if you don't already, you can subscribe to the Weekly Rocket. So that's something that Lauren and I create. It comes out every Wednesday, and in it, it's got opportunities for speaking, awards, media opportunities, article contribution opportunities, podcast interview opportunities, and I think we'll probably find an increase in podcast opportunities. If you go to the audaciousagency.com, up in the top right-hand corner is the subscribe screen, and you'll get that email every Wednesday about 9:30. SourceBottle is really another cool tool. It's a real journalist hotspot. So this is where journalists from, like, if you're in there long enough, you go, you know, there's some big name publications who are looking for people to find talent. SourceBottle.com. They do have a free version, but if you want to respond to call outs, it is $5 a month. But it's really worth it. I subscribe to it. I've been using it, I think, for about seven years, no longer than that, maybe 8 years. It's been around 8 years. Canva.com, great place to go and create images. So I'm going to run next week a webinar on repurposing. For those who've got a heap of written content, I'm going to run through how to come up with 40 pieces of content in 4 hours. So if you can take 4 articles, you can turn that into 40 pieces of content, and Canva is a really great way to do that, to create social media tiles, infographics, workbooks, things like that. Facebook Lives. Facebook actually will help you organically build your following the more lives you do. So don't just do one. You know, if you can go on every day and talk about your area of expertise, not waffling for half an hour, of course, but, you know, giving a good 5, 6, 7 minutes of good, solid content, something that can be actionable, something that is engaging. Like, don't just go and talk about, you know, the cup of tea that you've just had. Make it really valuable, and you do that regularly. Facebook will reward you. You will start watching your audience grow, because Facebook wants us to be using more Facebook Live. One of those third-party sites that I use, I sign all my clients up to, is Medium. So medium.com, and it's a content sharing platform, but within that platform is also magazines who use that platform to share their messages as well. And if you've got engaging content, a lot of them will actually reach out to you and say, hey, we'd love to share your story with our audience. Media Connections, which is mediaconnections.com.au, is another great platform where you can upload your media release and pitch it out to their media database, and also keep track, so you can build your own press room within there. If you haven't already done so, have a look at what your keywords is, so that you know, any content that you're creating, any videos that you're uploading to YouTube, any images that you're putting on your website, is that you can put into the metadata your keywords, so that it makes it easier to find you. Now, I always put in, Katrina's got something to say there.
So very important tool, very, very, very cool tool for keywords is Keywords Everywhere. It's a Google Chrome extension. It costs $10 for 100,000 search queries, as far as getting the search volume, competition, and cost per click for that particular keyword.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So what Katrina said, Google Alerts, I talk about that. Google Alerts, set up your keywords so that any news that comes in around your topic you can respond to, or if it's not something you can respond to, it might be something that you can blog about, or you can do a live about, or a video about, or post into Facebook and go, hey, I just saw this article, and start a conversation about, you know, in Facebook groups, they have people who are conversation starters. These are the people who are actively contributing to those groups, and they stand out. Media Connections, which was the Media Contacts, which was the AAP one that I shared with you through whatever it was called. I've just forgotten. My whole brain's like going, and take the time to rework your bio. A lot of people write bios like CV or for their resume, and they're quite stiff and boring and very formal. Have a little bit of fun with it. Like if you're in an industry where you're engaging other human beings, like tell them a bit of a story about who you are, how you got into what you're doing, you know, a little insight into your personality rather than just Annette Densham is a PR person. You know, like I think mine starts with, I just rewrote it recently, with a gypsy as a mother, and it took with the gypsy as a mother, and it took refuge in school libraries, blah, blah, blah. I'll post it if you want to see it, and a good media kit. Now, this is, Lauren mentioned this yesterday in the webinar, but we were talking about what we can do to help people. You know, we're giving away as much information as we can. Because how we look at this is that we're all in this together. This is going to impact all of us. Like I've already lost over half of my business. And when we come out of this, we want as many people to still be around as possible, or to be able to be in a position to help those make a recovery and get back on track. So we came up with this Audacious Action Coaching, and it's $97 a month for 6 months. The link's there that you can click on and subscribe to. We're going to have an action every week for people to do with a worksheet. We're going to have 2 coaching sessions beginning of the month and end of the month, where we're going to help people continue to grow their businesses, building on some of the stuff that we've talked about within this webinar, the one that we did yesterday, and any of the other ones that we do from moving forward. So that's my sales pitch. It probably wasn't very good, but that wasn't the whole purposing. But I've put it in there because it's a really great way to keep your foot in the door and to be continuing to do work on your business. And that's it from me with 3 minutes to spare. Is there any questions? I know a lot of people had to go, but if you've got any questions, I'm here. Ask away. You know, there's a smaller group left now, so I'm yours for the next, you know, however long you want to keep me talking.
And then it's Mary Crofton.
Hello, Mary Crofton.
Tech failure, but ideas person. So I have plenty of ideas, and like you, I love to write, and punching out 500 words if I'm in the mood is no problem for me. I just wrote an article for WNA, and I wrote 2 articles in one day. So when I want to, I can do it. My problem is I'm not tech savvy. I'm not Generation X. I find it very difficult to put my dreams into action on social media. Okay, so
yep.
Do I just hire a teenager on Taskmaster? No, says Katrina, don't do that.
My children can't even clean a toilet, let alone be responsible for my business.
What do I do? Because someone teaches me something, I get home and I'm just there for hours trying to do something that someone else will do 2 thumbs, and suddenly it's all magically happening with videos and stories, and like I've got everything ready to go in my head, and I know what I want to do, but I don't want to get, you know, I don't want to have to involve Paramount or Cecil B. DeMille. What can I do to get better at that? Is there tutorials? What should I do?
So what's the thing that you're stuck the most with right now? Instagram creating. For some reason, I seem to be going via Facebook. And when I want to add a video or something, I can't get it to go all together no matter what buttons I push or whatever I do. I'm just really shit at the tech shit. Okay, I think Katrina had a response to that.
Katrina.
Yeah, I thought first thing, if you're talking about Instagram, that the suggestion Annette made of Canva is fantastic, because it gives you layouts. You can add your brand kit, like create your brand kit, so it's on hand every time. It's also, I think you can use it free without having to pay, but I mean, it's very cheap. It's only what, $14 a month or something. You put all your specific color colors in there, your logos, you can upload your photos and videos in there, and you can download them in a lovely little package to post on Instagram or Facebook or wherever. And it's already made, all the sizes, everything.
So I can add music and do my everything with it, everything.
Pretty much. I mean, if you're wanting to create video content, you can do very small things with Canva. You can use the stock videos and that sort of thing. But if you've got your own content, naturally authentic content, real content that you've created is always going to be much more powerful, especially at this time when we're all very much glued to our computer screens. Authentic content is going to win you over any day over stock content. But if you're creative and you have a sense of humor, like Annette does, I think you'll be able to do something pretty fantastic.
I can do my own content. It's no problem for me to do that, and I think I do have a sense of humour.
She does.
I think we need them to survive this.
I'm actually the source of it, because I'm like a walking Lucille Ball most of the time. But yeah, it's just I guess just me getting. I've got a brand. I've got colours. I've got cards. I've got a website. I write all my own stuff. I don't want anyone else to really write it. I get it only edited for spelling mistakes. I try to be authentic. I try to be a bit funny. Yeah.
Is it video? You're talking about creating video.
I bought myself a thingamo thing. I don't even know what it's called. You know, here it is. It's a Digi or something. But like, yeah, it's even work. The app was supposed to scan. Look, I'm not going to bore you, because I could go on forever with all my sort of technological problems. You know, probably, you know, some group of IT specialists would have a field day watching me just for comic relief. But yeah, it's just something, you know, like Hayley can just click and get a video together. And I try and do exactly what she
Have you, look, with Instagram, like I don't really use Instagram a lot. I've just made it more personal now than I have business orientated, because when I was using it for business, I think I was a bit like you. It's like, I don't know if this is working. But if you post into a Facebook group like Minded Bitches, there'll be someone there who'll be able to give you some tips on that. But as for creating video, there's a really cool tool that I use called Lumen 5. You do have to pay for it, but they provide templates and music, so royalty-free music, images that are not going to get you in trouble with a lawyer. And you can upload, so you might sit in front of your computer and do a piece to camera that you can also upload to that. And it's really drag and drop, and you can edit it on there. So it's almost Mary-proof.
Oh, is that Luman?
I'll put
Lumen?
the Lumen, Lumen, Lumen 5.
Thank you so much, and thanks for listening to my technological failure diatribe, everyone.
That's quite all right. That's why we're here, to help you. I love Lumen 5. I'm thinking I'm going to do a little bit more on there for me as well. Create a little bit more video, make it look pretty, put some subtitles on it. Is there any
There's
other?
another video tool that I use. I've been with it for quite a while now. It only costs $100 a year. It's called Biteable.com. It's kind of as easy as putting a PowerPoint together as putting a video together. So you add the text, change the background of the text, the fonts, that sort of thing, the colors. You can upload or just pick from random stock as well. It's pretty quick to use. You can have a video created and downloaded in literally 10 minutes.
Oh, fabulous, Katrina. Look, and can I just say that I think this has been phenomenal. Thank you for sharing so much of your knowledge, your life experience, your expertise, your brilliance, your humour, yourself. Loved every minute of it, and so kind of you to do so. So thank you so very, very much.
You're very welcome.
You're just a legend, really, aren't you?
Oh, I'm gonna go build a statue on my veranda.
Well,
Worship
somebody's got
me.
to.
Someone's got to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one can come and visit me.
Do you need someone to paint it? Let me know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can close the door and watch me from the
I
inside.
might do a portrait of you. I'm going to get back into painting again.
I'd love that. I've always wanted a portrait of me.
Well, you know, I just love drawing faces, and I haven't done it for a long time. So maybe you'll be my first subject, Beauty.
Okay. Thank you.
That's enough from Mary Crofton for one day.
Enough from Mary Crofton for one day. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. Those who are still here, those who will listen later, those who came and had to leave. I really appreciate your time, and I will be doing another webinar next week, same time, 11:30, on 4 pieces, something to do with repurposing. Look, I've run out of words now. Like, it'll be something. Some stuff will come out of my mouth. It'll make sense to someone. 40 pieces in 4 hours. I've got it. Bada bing, bada boom. So I'll take you through how to use your current content that you've got, or content you're going to create, especially after hopefully what I've shared with you here, and be able to repurpose and share across more platforms without having to break your head and trying to think of what to do. So have a fantastic afternoon, people. As always, hit me up on Facebook, on Messenger. My email's annette@theaudaciousagency.com. If you need anything, reach out and ask. And I love you all.
I love you too, but I can't work the camera to get my photo up.
You're so funny. See ya.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Katrina. Thanks, Fiona. Bye-bye. Lovely to see you. Bye-bye.